Hey dorks, just a quick message reminding you to head over to twitch.tv/mindgappodcast and give us a follow. We live stream when we record our new podcast episodes, and we're live streaming video game sessions on Saturday nights at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. We're playing super rad stuff like Among Us, Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, Jackbox games, and Tabletop Simulator. Come hang out and play along with us. That's twitch.tv/mindgappodcast.
Mind Gap Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to Mind Gap Podcast. I'm Doug.
And I'm Noah.
Look at that! He's back. He's back again. Filling in for Justin is the one and only Noah Reno. Stepping in to fill those big shoes because Justin is off thwarting evildoers. It's true. Where he is, that's what he's doing. He's traveling and he couldn't make it, so Justin's like, look, I know it's hard to go without me, but if you could pick one person to sub in, who would it be? And I'm like, no, Reno. I said it really fast like that. He's like, wow. Is that quick, huh? I was like, yep.
Sure.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. I was like, that's who it's got to be.
We're trying to keep the numbers down, right? So I understand the choice.
How dare you? That's not how this works. This is great because you had a great suggestion for topics, which we'll get in momentarily, and I love them because it all starts from the framing of gaming, which is great because Justin doesn't do much from that. My dog has just entered the arena. Hello. Hi.
Loki is all kinds of just entertainment content lately.
Couldn't do it. You just had to come on in. Hi, puppy dog. And now the door's closed, and you're like a cat, and you're like, well, how can I get out?
Why do I do? Why am I in here?
Go on, you can do it. Go, good girl. And she's out. Okay, that's my dog. So Noah had a great suggestion that deals with video gaming, and Justin, God bless him, he's great, but video games is just not his wheelhouse. It's not his bailiwick. So I was super excited to farm this topic with you, which I think will be really, really, really fun.
It will.
But before we do that, let's start off with a little bit of housekeeping. Oh, I hurt my finger on that one. Really got the knuckle on the edge there. Whoopsie doodles. If you don't already, please follow and check us out on Spotify, as well as anywhere else you listen to your podcast. But we know we do exist on Spotify, so please check us out there. Also, please come join our Discord server. It's a great place to hang out with some really cool people. People like Zenny, people like Noah, people like Alpaca, people like Wolf's Lore, people like Jared, people like, I don't know, the list keeps going, man. We got all sorts of cool people hanging out in our Discord. You can come, you can shoot the shit, you can enjoy the wonderful memes that Zenny posts every day. You can check out the recipes channel where Noah shares some cool shit and Slotty shares some cool shit. Very good. We set up game nights, which is fun for video games and otherwise. It's a cool place. You should come hang out. And if you want to join it, just head over to twitch.tv/mindgappodcast. In the About section, you'll see a little spot that says Discord. Just click on that. Click on the Discord, and it'll take you right on over. You've got, how quickly you're forgotten. You're never forgotten, Slotty. Sorry. I just, in the moment, I was like, remember names. And it's just like, in real life, I can't remember names for shit. I met someone on my vacation, and it was a dude and his wife, and they were both like from the radio world, and Natalie was just talking their ear off, and she's like, on Saturday nights is girls' night because Dad does his podcast, and because for her, Saturday night she hangs out with Jill, and they have popcorn and watch shows, and she said podcast, and the lady goes, podcast? You're into podcast? I'm from the radio world. And it was like kind of a moment for like networking, and as soon as they left, I just turned to Jill and I go, what were their names? Like I completely forgot after they introduced themselves because I'm just so focused on other things. I'm like, oh fuck, I don't remember their names. Hello again, dog. Welcome back.
Oh, dog time too.
Dog time too. You just
electric boogaloo.
Yeah. But yeah, so you should all come join our Discord server. It's great. It'll be fun. Come hang out with us. Next, please, if you'd be so kind, and if you want to support the podcast, there's a lot of ways to do it. Number one, you come to twitch.tv/mindgappodcast, follow us. If you feel so inclined, drop a subscribe, or you can always support yourself as well with going to our merch at redbubble.com and typing in Mind Gap Podcast. You'll find a couple of designs we have there, but we have all sorts of stuff. We've got t-shirts, hoodies, backpacks. We've got hats now. We've got hats you can put on your head, protect yourself. Get yourself something nice, support the podcast. We appreciate you and everything you do. And last but not least, not only do we record our podcast live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Time on Twitch, but we also do a video game live stream on Saturday nights at 8 p.m. Central. That's at twitch.tv/mindgappodcast. Had a really great time last Saturday with the Dungeon Karens. We came back in. They finished up adventure number 9. They're level 3. They had a hard time starting the adventure, but they finished strong. They just steamrolled the rest of that. They had little trouble. And they're heading into adventure 10 next time. There's only 2 more adventures left. So right now, it's looking pretty good. They're looking pretty strong. We had a good time. It's good laughs. This Saturday, I'm trying to figure out. I don't know if I want to do What the Dub. Haven't done that in a minute. I want to do some Jackbox games, but I'm also like, do we do one now and then do it again in a couple weeks when Jackbox 8 comes out? I don't know. Decisions. Hard to say. Noah, how do you decide what you want to stream?
Project Winter.
We have not done Project Winter in a minute. That is a great suggestion. Another game of deception that I'm terrible at. So that could be fun. I remember the last time we played, I was murdering someone and Alpaca came up and he was like, what are you doing? And I was like covered in blood. I was like, oh, they're over there. And he's like, Doug's the bad guy. And I was like, shit, I was busted.
Actually, I don't think I'm going to be around this Saturday. So might be, do you have a backlog of anything? You have like a back catalog that you need to get to still?
I mean, I've got all sorts of shit. I got a new game that's a solo game that's kind of fun. I enjoy it. It's called Dice Legacy. It's basically, it's a beautiful looking game where you use dice to build your town. Kind of like slot your dice in there. You got to fend off enemies. It's kind of interesting. It could be a pretty chill stream playing that.
I think you might like Lost in Random. That's a game that just came out too.
Lost in Random?
Lost in Random.
It's
like story wise, it's like Divergent, I guess.
Okay.
Or like Hunger Games, rather.
Okay.
More like Hunger Games.
All right. Action adventure.
But it's like based kind of on dice rolls.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting art. I don't typically go for action adventures, but it looks very interesting. Very Tim Burton-esque. Like
yes.
That movie where they steal Christmas through Halloween, whatever that's called.
Yep. It has to be man.
It has to be man.
Couldn't come up with a joke name that fast.
It's all right. We're just getting warmed up.
Because obviously I know the real name, but that's not fun.
I can't think of the real name, so we'll call it.
Oh, well. No, Zenny, you ruined it.
Nightmare Before Christmas. There it is. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, check us out at twitch.tv/mindgappodcast. Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Central for live streaming of the podcast where you can join the chat. Just like Zenny and all these other cool people. Or Saturdays at 8 p.m. Central where we do the video game live stream. Sometimes it's me just rolling solo. A lot of times it's us doing stuff as Discord. Cool buddies system. It's fun. It's a good time. Come check that out. Woo! So that's it for our announcements, getting that shit out of the way. Noah, how you been, man? It's been a couple weeks since you've been on here.
Yeah.
What you been up to?
I've been good. Just started working again.
Congratulations.
And that's about it. Taking care of spaghetti and keeping up with the Kardashians.
Nice.
In a sense.
Not
literally, but
how is old Spaghetti doing? For people who don't know, Noah has a wonderful dog named Spaghetti.
Yes, Spaghetti is the pup. She's good. Always. She's just, I mean, we're going on having her for about 6 months now, and she's fully integrated and having a great time here.
Cool.
With the new fam, the forever fam.
My wife just sent me a text. She booby trapped my door so that Loki can't get it. You probably won't see because of the light here, but she put like a little baby gate up in front of my office door so that she can't get in because she just pushes it in with her nose. It was like, classic. Hey, what's up? How we doing in here? That's awesome. That's love right there. You know, wife's looking out for me, putting the kid to bed, and like, you know what? I don't want Doug getting interrupted on his podcast because that's so important.
That's so good. It's so kind.
It's very kind. Well, that's cool, man. I'm glad Spaghetti's getting fully integrated, and she seems to really like you guys. That's good, man. That's really cool.
She's a very good girl. She's got good family from cousin dog Rena. It's Austin's dog, and a couple friends, maybe some new friends here soon.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. She needs to join us for Jackbox. I'm telling you, man. I gotta give her ample time because, like I said, Saturday nights is girls' night with Natalie, and Natalie takes that pretty serious. Although honestly, it's Natalie just watching a bunch of kids shows and having a good time. Jill most of the time reads, so I think it could be very, very, very possible. Jill plus wine plus Jackbox. It's been over a year. I'll make that case. She told me a little while back. She's like, give me some notice. So I can essentially prep Natalie, be like, hey, mom's gonna be playing games tonight while you're watching your shit. So it would be fun. Trying to decide if we should do another Jackbox game night before the next one comes out. I don't know if that's too close together.
I give it like a month time. If you did it this Saturday, I think it would be enough time. But if you waited another week, it might be too soon.
That's fair, because then it would be like, I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the best streams. I agree. That was amazing. That was a really good time where Jill basically got hammered on wine, played some Joke Boat. We had ourselves a doozy of a time, and Jill got pretty into it. She got pretty into the slinging the insults. It was really good. So it was one of my favorite times editing together a highlight reel of that stream. It was phenomenal. So yeah, we'll have to do that again soon. Speaking of video games, Noah, you've been killing it with just your games lately, playing lots of cool stuff.
I've been playing a lot of games.
What's been on your docket?
So Overwatch, always playing a little bit of Overwatch. Seth and I have kind of been in on the Bloons TD6 grind. It's just been fun to do that.
Dude, holler at me when you're playing Bloons TD. I literally did that over the last couple of days. Just kind of like just a quick moment, a quick break. I'm like, I'm playing some Bloons,
JJ made a Bloons TikTok that I really expected to take off a little bit and didn't.
Oh, that was an amazing TikTok. I loved it.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
No, I mean, I've also been playing like some more of these recent releases. I actually just got the invitation to the next Halo Infinite beta test. Woo! So that's very exciting. As well as Kena, just started playing that today. That game has been super fun and very fun to look at. And then, I mean, besides Deathloop, which I will talk about extensively, back on Peggle. Don't know where that came from, but like my just kill times while I'm streaming games now have been Peggle and GeoGuessr, which have both just been mindless fun for me.
My favorite thing was I was in the middle of a meeting and I had your stream on in the background and it was GeoGuessr. I was just lurking and I saw you were in Chicago was one of the locations. Yes. I was like, I know exactly where you are.
Dude, I actually got a pick like last week sometime and it was on stream too. It was your address. Oh, like it was at the school that I guaranteed I know like Natalie goes to.
That's terrifying.
It was like just an elementary school like 4 blocks from your house.
That's horrifying.
Yeah. I was like, I know this is Chicago because I've seen this area on like the map.
Yeah. Horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. But you were like looking around. I was like, that's Rogers Park. Because you looked at like the L train stop was more. So I'm like, I lived up there. I know where that is. But I couldn't type because I was in the meeting. I just wanted to be like, I know where that is. It's Chicago. It was a
good game. I'm very excited to get one of the places that I like have lived or am very well aware of.
Oh, come on. You did Michigan that one time and you were just killing it.
I've got Michigan a couple times.
You did. It was.
I I've like lived before,
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, I know exactly what
or
that
I
is.
know extensively.
Yeah, that's got to be pretty exciting when that happens, and terrifying when
Yeah.
it's other things where it's like, hey,
Yeah.
we know what your IP address is looking up, so here you go. Ta-da. So you mentioned Deathloop. For the folks out there who aren't familiar with the game, give people the rundown on what that is.
So Deathloop is a game where you are a man who's stuck in a time loop. You're on an island that is run by 8 rich ass dumb people who you want to kill all in one day to break the loop and end the cycle of just murder and torture that everybody is stuck in. And that's pretty much it. It's a very simple concept. It's just a time loop game. If you die, you reset to day 1. If you survive to the end of the day without accomplishing your goal, you get set back to 1. And it's one of the best games I've ever played.
What about it makes it so great? Like, why would you rank it as one of the best games you've ever played?
So I'm a very big fan of these highly stylized games, because if you're trying to go for this realism, you're dating your game, because in 3 or 4 years it's going to look like dog shit. And so like with Psychonauts and Kena and Deathloop, which are like the 3 games that I've just recently been playing the most, they're all very stylized and have this just art style and these graphics that are going to survive time, because they don't necessarily need to look the best, because they just are very fun to look at.
Mhm.
And that's like one huge point for the game. And then the next is like, just the gameplay is so fun. Like the moment to moment combat, you can do stealth, you can just go in guns blazing. But it's all satisfying. Like the way they did the sound design, the way they did the rumble in the controller, like it's all very smart and it's all very, very satisfying just to get those moment to moment actions. It is easy. The AI is stupid, but that's okay sometimes. It's okay to just be able to like ram through a horde of enemies because they're stupid, but it just makes you feel stronger.
Sure.
And then there's like the game twisting mechanic that is you have an opposing player who in story is called Juliana, and she's kind of the other person you're talking to the most often. She's like, hey man, you can't break the loop, and she's trying to stop you from breaking the loop in the way of an actual player will enter your games as her and try to kill you and stop you from breaking the loop. And those moments are very intense and super fun, especially like when like Wolf and I had been playing back and forth a lot, and we were getting into like some really, really intense gunfights, because sometimes she can be stronger, but she only has to be killed once, whereas you trying to break the loop have 3 lives. And so sometimes you're like, you get killed once, but then you can come back stronger, get the jump on him, or she knows where you're going to respawn. So she'll go back and she has traps set and he has all this. It's like this really, really in-depth cat and mouse gameplay that just makes like the game not only super replayable from the single player aspect, from playing as her. I mean, it's like a completely different game.
That's interesting. That's really cool. I love the idea of, because I was reading, an article from IGN called "Why Time Loops Are the New Zombies," and one of the elements they mentioned was Deathloop in here, and what they said is like, as you play through the game, it almost makes you feel like you're the expert by the end of it. Like you just know where everything is. You feel like a badass because you've done it a bajillion times. That your guy would obviously. Any story or movie you've seen, like Groundhog Day obviously comes to mind, where a guy who's, I forget, they've calculated how many years or how much time he spent locked in that one day, because just based on how he would be able to master something like piano and what he was able to accomplish, he knew that every second of the day what was going on, and he moved through it like it was nothing, and to kind of have that starting out just probably fumbling around, but by the end of it, you just imagine a guy no look shooting, punching a guy here, just stepping out of the way. It's got to be really satisfying to play that.
Absolutely. And in games like that, there's a ton of games that have come out recently with the time loop mechanic, but in those games, it's less about your own skill as to a certain extent, and it's more about information. It truly becomes like an analytical, almost math, like just you're going around and you're trying to gather, you're learning like patterns, and you're learning all of these different like details about the world. And especially in Deathloop, like they really did a good job of making this a key point of the game, where I'm talking early game, so we're not getting into spoilers or anything, but you find out that these two people are dating, and like you can go to one point at one point in the day and go kill one, and you can go to another point in a different point in the day and kill another one, but you very, very soon find out that they're dating. And so you can find out these secret little like details. You can like hack their systems and get in their DMs and stuff, see what they're saying back and forth to one another. And then you find out that at night they actually meet with one another in one place. You're like, okay, I can go there and I can kill them at the same time. And so I'm like cutting down my numbers so that I have more time to kill other people later on in the night. And that's like a huge part of the game. And that's where I think a lot of these time loop games really shine, is getting that information rather than just banking on the player knowing how to kill people like good, or like shoot good, or have a good aim or whatever.
I think that's a fair point. In my mind, that's pretty cool to a certain extent, until like the first playthrough has got to feel really cool, but the replayability factor kind of has to suck, right? Because you already know the answer to it.
So the replayability of the game boils down to basically just playing through the day with different kits, because there's all these different weapons and all these different powers that you have. And so from the break the loop perspective, I have beaten the game like 3 or 4 times now, just because there's multiple endings and there is different ways that you can go about playing. And I think I picked the easiest way to play, or like the strongest kit or whatever, for my normal playthrough. And so I wanted to go through again using different tools to see how different the gameplay was. And it did vary greatly as far as that goes. But then that is where the alternate play comes in with the Juliana character, because that makes it like way more fun. I mean, because you're playing the game, which has really good set of mechanics and a really good set of tools for you to play with, but it turns it into just like this deathmatch basically, which is fun, and it's good from the longevity standpoint of the game, because people are going to continue to buy it, and then the people who have already beaten it are able to keep the people who just bought it, engaged and have their full experience and stuff.
Yeah, and ruin their game like Dark Souls or something, you know?
Yeah.
Someone who knows the game inside and out, they're just like, you're fucking dead!
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
I love it.
But that's part of the game. It's a big part of the game, is losing all of your progress and having to restart. That's the nature of the thing.
Would you say that's the nature of life, you know?
Maybe. Depends on how you look at it, I guess.
Depends on whether or not you have the ability to come back.
Yeah. Reincarnate.
Yeah, because chat's been talking about, you know, a lot of the stuff, like Jervis says Palm Springs is a very cool take on time loops. Etoy says Edge of Tomorrow. He also says Majora's Mask did it first.
True.
That brings up a good point. Like, over the last several years, the idea of just time loops in video games as well as movies has really sort of taken hold. And in this article from IGN, we've seen so many more pieces of content, movies and games that have this sort of trope, if you will, in it, that make it so enticing. And I loved what the author, who was although the article is a little bit annoying because he takes the the time loop trope and like just continues to, it's by Michael Swaim. I fucking love Michael Swaim. I didn't realize he wrote it. He was a writer on Cracked. The dude's hilarious. Completely amazing. I didn't realize that. He's awesome. But he dove deep into a lot of the different elements on this, and you know, he mentioned a lot of the movies that some of the chat have talked about, like Groundhog Day, Palm Springs, Edge of Tomorrow, Source Code, Happy Death Day, which a lot of those, when those movies have come out, like, I really like Edge of Tomorrow. I think it's great. Groundhog Day's fun. Source Code, I think I watched it once. I was like, cool. But at that point, like when I'd seen Source Code, which I saw that before Edge of Tomorrow, I was like, cool. So this is a time loop situation. Happy Death Day. I know I didn't see it, but I know it did really well. Like those movies, when they have that element to it now, I'm like, oh, cool. All right. We're just going to keep doing this over and over again. But there's also an element to it that I really appreciate about it. I get really excited about, because I love the idea of, I don't know if this is gross or not, but like to perfect the situation, like to be like, I'm going to be able to get this done perfectly, because there's so much in our life that we can't control. And there's so many times in life where I wish I could be like, man, I wish I could just load a save point and just go back and try this again.
There's two instances that explore that specifically that have come out recently. One being an episode of the Twilight Zone, and one being the game that just came out called 12 Minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Both of which kind of explore this idea of, man, you cannot be in a time loop without becoming a psychopath. or it doesn't matter, because at a certain point, all you're doing is manipulating people. Like, all you're doing is, because you know the right answer. Like, someone on day one could be the least interested person in you, or like if you're trying to get a girl or whatever, they could 100% not want anything to do with you, but through stalking them every single day for eternity and then figuring out exactly what kind of person they are, you can get them to be interested in you and get the exact outcome that you are looking for. And 12 Minutes does that in a fucked up and sadistic and incestuous manner.
Spoiler alerts. Hide your boners, gang.
The game sucks. The game like is not very good.
Oh, really?
I did play through all of it, and I got a couple of the different endings, and I'm okay with spoiling it just because I don't think that anybody needs to play it.
Oh, wow.
It's and the voice cast is like, I mean, it's Daisy Ridley and James McAvoy.
No shit.
And
I didn't know that.
Green Goblin.
Oh, Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe. It's all three of them. They're the only three people in the game, and their performances suck because the script is bad. And so it's like Willem Dafoe's the only good voice talent because he can't do bad. But the point of that game basically is that Willem Dafoe is a cop, and James McAvoy and Daisy Ridley are a couple in this tiny apartment. And he comes in and he's like, tell me what happened, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, oh, you're talking about it. And then he kills both of you. And then that's when the loop restarts. It's a 12-minute time loop. And so you're just going through and you're trying to figure out what's going on. And it turns out being the first twist is she killed her dad. And then you're like, okay, well, we're still married and you're pregnant and blah, 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 blah. But then you find out that you killed her dad and you are actually her brother and you're married and having a kid with her. And it's like this whole fucked up thing that like you were hypnotized to forget. And it's like, what the fuck is what the fuck is this? But it becomes this point where it's like you have to drug your wife over and over and over again to like get her to go fall asleep so that when the guy comes in, you can hide in the closet and you can like shackle him and like torture him. And I know I'm going into like full details of the game because it like you have to be able to talk about like what it means. And it's basically the point is that if you're stuck in a time loop, you are bound to do shitty things. And at a certain point, there's like, if you're in the early points in the game, you can try to kill your wife with a knife, and the guy says, no, once you do that, you're a murderer forever. Can't do that. But then you could do it in the next loop, and you could just straight up fucking kill your wife if you just try to do it again. Which again is your sister. I
feel like I really wish you wouldn't have told me about, not because I want to play the game. I'm just like, why did we write this? Like, there's just questions, you know?
The nature of it is, if you have infinite tries to do something, you will do anything. You'll do everything to try to get back to some sense of normalcy. And that's why, somebody mentioned Palm Springs is like, that guy gave up. That guy did try to do everything. He probably fucking killed people. He probably killed himself. He did like all this shitty, like shit person stuff. But after a certain amount of time, he's like, fuck it, whatever. I'm done. I can't get out. So like, I'm stuck here. Like he came to terms with the fact that he was a piece of shit and decided that it was better not only for his like own mental health, but probably for everybody else that he's like fucking stuck here.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea, like, because a lot of things you talked about happened in Groundhog Day, you know, like where Bill Murray's character, you know, he finds that hot chick and he just asks a couple questions about her childhood so he can come in and pretend and manipulate her to basically having, you know, sex with her and things like that. But what I like about it is like he enjoys sort of digging into the darker side of himself. He robs a bank, you know, he does all these things, but he realizes how unhappy he is, and kind of like the moral of the story is like, what does he got to do to get it right? But it also, especially with the love interest, you know, he can't just manipulate her. Like it doesn't work. So I do appreciate the moral of that, in that you've got it showed what he was willing to do to become the best. I also appreciate the darker side of that as well, because human nature is in that situation, given unlimited tries, you're absolutely right. You're going to try just about everything and anything. And a lot of that stuff gets, it's the idea of giving people power, right? People abuse it. Part of it might just be out of desperation. Part of it might be boredom, right? If you spend roughly 10,000 years in the same day, like not aging, I mean, there's a sanity level that would probably break you. I'm surprised that, you know, I think what's great about that movie is the idea that Bill Murray's character is going to be just fine after all of that. He spent 10,000 years in this one day, and then it's like, oh, a day where I don't know anything. And that must be terrifying to him. It must be absolutely terrifying, where he doesn't know what's going to happen.
Which is something kind of fun and interesting about Deathloop, is that you don't start at the beginning of the loop. You find out, this is minor spoilers for Deathloop, so like 5 seconds ahead, you find out that you've actually been in the loop for like 200 years, but you've lost your memory a couple times even. And you always, even like there was one time that you escape, that you actually like get out and you kill everybody and like you do what you need to do and you escape, but for some reason that previous version of you or whatever comes back. And you're still here, and you're always wondering and getting all this information about like the past year's life, as well as learning all the new stuff that's still like happening and stuff too. And that was like a really interesting take on that as well, because Palm Springs was cool because it's from the perspective of a new person with somebody who's been in the loop for a long time. But this is somebody who's been in the loop for a long time, but anything. And like to the point where he couldn't even remember his own name when he like first wakes up, only to find out that like he's got all this shit going on that he's completely unaware of. And I think that's a really fun angle.
That's interesting. I find it very interesting in the sense too of just, you know, the psychology breakdown of that, of how that works, but also going back to kind of the article talking about how this has become kind of, you know, it says, you know, time loops are the new zombies. Zombies were the rage for the longest time, right? Everyone thinks zombies this, zombies that, Walking Dead, you know, all that sort of stuff. Zombie games, everything zombies. And part of it too is which I also find very fascinating in this article, which of course I realize now that it's Michael Swaim. It makes me so happy because he's such a great writer. I love the guy. But he talked about the idea of how, you know, the concept of a time loop, you know, and he isn't difficult to understand anymore. And he talked about the Flynn effect, which I absolutely love. And if you're not familiar with it, the Flynn effect is named after James Flynn, who is a statistician who helped describe how IQ levels rose steadily throughout the 20th century. So basically, people are generally better at processing complex information than their grandparents were, which is why videos of old people using cutting-edge technology will always be inherently hilarious. So, but it's the same way. Like it's I think that's why it's hard for me sometimes to watch movies and content from years ago, because the editing style and the storytelling is hard for me, because I'm like, stop treating me like an idiot. You know, it used to be, Justin and I have talked about this at length, but like the editing was like, we watch a man exit a cab and walk into the building, and then we cut to him, you know, coming into the lobby of the building and then going to the elevator and pushing the button up, and then we go into the elevator, we watch him push the button up, and then we watch him come out, and then he walks down the hallway. Because if you just cut and show the exterior and cut to him inside, people were like, well, how did he get in there? Like they couldn't fathom the idea of that. And what I like what this particularly calls out is it's not that like ancient humans were stupid. It's just they were processing what was around them. And each generation is exposed to more and more information. So they're able to process information faster. They're able to make jumps, logical leaps quicker. And what I love is the example he gave in this article was the original teaser trailer for the 1989 Batman. He's like, if you watch that, he's like, we literally get told who our main character is. He introduces himself, and then we see him in a Batman outfit doing Batman things. So we understand this is the story of some kind of, if I'm following this right, Batman. And then he's like, if you compare that to the 2020 teaser for the latest Batman movie, The Batman, it's literally 50 seconds. It's like the screen test. It's just you watch Robert Pattinson in the Batman costume walk forward into focus. You see the Batman logo. You see his face, and that's it. And everyone goes, I know what this is. Partially because we've seen so much Batman content over the years, but also just, you know, well over 30 years later, we can look at this and we know what this is. Like, it, you know, right. And by the way, I watched the original 1989 Batman teaser trailer. Really hard to watch. I was like, man, this movie looks like shit. But yeah, it's I find that fascinating because I think that also I remember growing up on the original NES and the games were oddly simplistic. You know, it's like press start, cool, you're going, you know, and you're playing. It's like cool. And when you break it down as an adult going back and looking at some of these games, I'm like, what the fuck is this game? Like, what am I doing? Like the concepts were bizarre, but you're like, cool. Well, I know what the buttons are. This shoots, this jumps. I've got 2 buttons and whatever, and I'm playing it. And you got to go here. I mean, think about Legend of Zelda. That is a weird ass game. It's a small elf boy who gets handed a wooden sword to go out and fight monsters and collect these different pieces of a Triforce that Ganon has, and it's you gotta use the candle to light the bushes on fire to find the secret entrance into the it's batshit. And I remember playing that game. I knew that game inside out. I took a break from years, and I dug out my old NES and I pulled that out, and I remembered some of it, but I couldn't find some of the dungeons. And I was like, how do you find this? How did I find this? How did I figure this out back in the day? Like, how did you find the information? There was I had to look it up, and I felt dumb. I was like, where's this dungeon? I don't remember how to get there. It's insane.
Just imagine if Legend of Zelda was a time loop game. Oh, wait, Majora's Mask. Very good game, by the way.
Never played it.
Very good. I had a good time anyway. Never played Ocarina of Time, though. Only have played Majora's Mask.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so, I don't know. It's interesting to me how the idea of, because I'm wondering if this Flynn effect also would probably state that at some point the generation past us is going to be running circles around us too, which is going to be really hard to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's lends to how. And that's like where I am. That's where we are now. That's why we can never predict what's going to come next as far as like scientific innovation and stuff, is because we can't, to a certain extent, we can't process what is going to come next. We can't process further enhancement. That's why we're not scientists. That's why we're not, that's why we're not inventors and smart. But it is, to a certain extent, there's like only so much you can do with some stuff, right? To a certain extent, you can't get beyond like the end of something. So when does information end? Like when do we get to a point, like when in Bill Murray's time loop in Groundhog's Day, when does it get to a point where he's been there for so long that he starts to forget other shit? Like if he's there for 1,000 years, what if he has forgotten like I don't know, like what if he's starting to forget like basic mathematic principles and shit, like just because he spent 200 years learning piano, then
Sure.
where does that what information pushes that out and gets replaced by something else?
Of course, because the human mind can only hold so much information, right? It's very much a use it or lose it sort of thing, which is why when I try to fathom, like in high fantasy and stuff, like, oh, this is an elf. This elf has lived for 1,000 years. I'm like, that sounds awful to me.
Yeah.
The idea of immortality sounds awful. Just no, especially if other people around you aren't immortal. That's just a recipe for psychosis that is going to be so destructive.
Which
what would be worse, not having other people around you be immortal, or having many other people around you being immortal, and you didn't like those people?
Yeah, I mean that's like kind of what the Greek mythology is about, right?
Right.
Just all the gods fucking hate each other, and they're all just like shitting on each other behind their backs.
Yeah.
So I mean, it seems pretty shitty.
Yeah, that would absolutely suck. And I don't know. It's like I appreciate the idea of like Wolverine, for example. Probably that poor fucker. Basically based on his. Yep. His mutant powers is just going to be, I think someone wrote that it's inevitable that he will get trapped under something at one point. That will happen because just law of averages, like he will get trapped. He can't die. He's just going to be stuck.
Yeah. I know, yeah.
Which is like, that's terrifying.
Yeah. It doesn't sound fun.
Yeah. But the idea of Bill Murray in this loop, like he would go crazy. I guess he's still talking to people, but he can't further the relationships. So it's very limited on what's going to happen. And if you take something else like Edge of Tomorrow, which I think would be even more gruesome. Have you ever seen that movie?
No.
Essentially, Tom Cruise, gets caught in a time loop in a war with aliens. And every single day, he's watching people die. And he becomes desensitized. He ultimately becomes a badass. Becomes a badass soldier, which is fun, right? That's kind of the appeal of that movie to me. I was like, watch this guy kind of be a piece of shit, turn himself into like a badass. Like that's a really cool sort of fulfilling character arc in that sort of situation. But the psychology behind that, right? Just waking up every day and just is looking at the people that are going to die.
So that's actually the Twilight Zone did the opposite of that. I think what they did was another very interesting take on the time loop premise, where it's another kind of like Palm Springs, where it's from the perspective of somebody who's not in the time loop, where it's just this girl. She's going to this museum for doing like a paper or whatever for school. And then there's this dude here who just like who's like super smart. He knows all this shit. And then you find out that he's in a time loop, and that's why he knows all this shit. And he can be like, that guard is going to do this right now. And he's going to he's like, yeah, I can actually take pieces off of the exhibit and like throw them. And then like the guard is just like, he's got headphones and he can't hear anything. I can do whatever I want. Right. And basically that entire situation came about because she almost got hit by a bus and he saves her. Right. Just something that a normal person would do. And he finds himself now in this time loop where he's like, oh, I have to rescue this person. It immediately ingrains in himself this hero complex that he exists to save this person's life and then like become the romantic interest of this person. Because if she got hit by the bus, then she wouldn't exist. But because she exists now and I'm in this loop connecting the dots, we're meant to be together. And so he's like going through this time loop. He's like doing all this different shit. And in this instance where we're seeing it, he's like, he just straight up admits it to her. He's like, oh, I've never done this before. Like he gets a reaction that's different than what he expected. And then it immediately like turns sinister when she rejects him, because he's like, I did everything right. I've done all this shit perfectly. Like, what else do you fucking want from me? And she's like, you're insane. Like, you're a crazy person, because you are, whether you're in a time loop or not, you're either stalking me or you're in a time loop and you're just manipulating me. Like, she straight up says it. And she's like, and that's shitty. And he's like, you're lucky I'm in a fucking good mood today, because I have killed you before and I probably will do it again. Like, and he's like, you're lucky I'm a nice guy, basically. Like, it was exactly that.
Toxic masculinity.
Yeah. And then, which the episode ends on this very fun note where it's the next day, the loop has reset.
Where she's his sister.
Yes,
And
yes, that's what happened, and it's great storytelling. No, where she steps out into the street and the bus is coming, and he doesn't do anything, and she doesn't get hit by the bus, and her day moves on, and everything just continues to go on as normal, and that's when the episode ends.
Interesting.
And so that's like this additional take on it. That's like, well, what if you just don't like? It's this. I got to do something. I got to figure out a way to get out of it. I got to game the system. It's like, well, what if you just take a step back and don't? Like, what if you just don't?
I love that perspective because the concept that we're the hero of our own story is always fascinating to me because, you know, and I think that's what makes it interesting. That's what makes a good villain, right? Is they don't necessarily think that they're doing bad. And if they are, then it's a kid's show, right? They're like, I'm going to take over the world because I want the power. And
that's what I love about Kina. That's what I'm absolutely loving about Kina is that they like, I got the blue staff and the bad guy's got the red staff. And they're not saying he's the bad guy. I just know it.
Yeah, I can see it. Visually, you're telling me what's going on and I'm down. I'm with that. But the idea that, you know, people are driven by their own hero complex, like that's such a fascinating Twilight Zone concept that this guy's like, I saved her and then now I'm owed something, right? That it rings way too true. Like just if you've been on the internet, that attitude is right there. Entitlement, you know, people, you know, that sort of shit. I don't know what's worse these days, but a sense of entitlement is definitely one of the worst things that I've seen from people. Like this expectation that they're owed something is just the worst. And this is when I lived in Chicago in the downtown area before I had Natalie. I used to walk every day by this daycare, and it used to drive me nuts when I'd walk by and I'd see cars double parked on this busy street. And it was just like flashers on, hazards on, whatever. And no one ever said anything or whatever, but it was just this idea of like, you all need to go around me because I have a kid. All right. I don't care that I'm not supposed to double park here with my flash on, but I've got to pick up my kid from daycare. So you're going to have to do it. And I'm just like, go fuck yourself. I don't care whether or not. And there's just like this idea of, hey, everyone get out of the way because I've got my stroller and I've got a kid. I'm like, okay, like be a human being and respect other people while you're at it. And that sense of entitlement is just so gross. And if you've ever worked in customer service, you've seen it in spades of people essentially being like, me. Yeah, me.
Absolutely. It can't be bothered to wait a little extra longer. Can't be bothered to just be treated like everybody else because you're not everybody else. You're you.
You're the hero. And the hero doesn't wait in line. The worst thing I heard was when I was in Las Vegas and we were waiting in line for a cab. And this guy it's funny because when you think of Vegas, it's like, this pretty grand. It's such a weird place, but it's like this grand built place with just, I don't know, this mysteriousness. But when you look at the people that go there, you're like, this is kind of a shithole. Because what happened was we were waiting in line for a cab, and this guy in this sleeveless shirt, hat, he's like probably in his late 40s or whatever. His friend was waiting in line for a cab, and the guy's like, hey, what are you doing, buddy? He's like, I'm waiting in line for a cab. He's like, this is Vegas. We don't wait in line for cabs. Follow me. And he just like cut in line, grabbed a cab, and just like hopped in it. I was like, this is some bullshit. Like, what world are you living in where you're like, I spend money here, therefore I'm entitled to returns? Yeah. It's like, no, you lost money here. Yeah. And now you got to deal with that. I'm sorry, pal. The house wins. What do you don't get anything. All right.
Or, just I pay for the video game, so all the devs have to do everything I say right now. And if they don't do it, then I'm going to give them a bad review on Steam.
Oh my God. Oh, was it you that shared something? Or maybe I saw it somewhere else. But someone wrote just like an absurdly bad review of a game on Steam. And they basically wanted to play a game that wasn't that game.
Yeah. Yeah. And that shit is all over the place. Even with shit that is like mildly successful. I mean, Overwatch is probably the biggest thing. And Overwatch is, I know Blizzard is in a bad state right now, generally,
Mhm.
and that's not the discussion we're having. But it is that there are people that play Overwatch almost exclusively, even people like high rank players, low rank players, and they're just like, why am I playing this game? This game sucks. The matchmaking is bad. The game's not fun. All this shit sucks. I'm like, okay, then go play a fucking different game. Go play a different game. Like there are other games, like there are free games that are as good as Over. Like there is so many things that you can do.
Splitgate's fun, you know?
But Activision Blizzard bad because they're not fixing this game. Well, just go play something else because this game is good for different reasons than what you want from it.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm having a great time with Overwatch. People are like, Overwatch is in the worst state that it's been in ever. Since the game has come out, it is worse now than it has ever been. Like, that's not true because they haven't put any characters in the game for 2 years. The balance of the game is great. The gameplay of the game is better than it's ever been. It's that the community sucks and Blizzard is in a bad place, and because they're trying to make a sequel, and then the world was in a bad place for 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to I'm not trying to give any excuses. I'm not trying to speak on Blizzard's behalf or anything, because I'm not. But from a complaining about shit standpoint, there are so many fucking reasons why it's okay that the game is where it is right now.
Mhm.
It's the game is fun. It's balanced. They're still working on it. They're still making sure that the game's not fucking broken. But because of the pandemic and because of all the lawsuits and because of all of this random bullshit that is going on in the world and everywhere, it just isn't coming the way that everybody wants it to. And that is where it just comes from. Even Splitgate. Splitgate is one of the most popular games in the world right now. But every single fucking time they tweet something, you have a million people saying dead game, a million people saying fix your hit reg, a million people saying I still have queue time sometimes, a million people saying all this other dumb shit. It's like, why? What is the reason that you feel like you need to do that? What in your brain is enticing you to go onto someone, go talk to someone who's not a dev, who's just an intern running their fucking social media page and say, fix your shit. You're the one. Why are you tweeting and not fixing your game? It's because are you dumb? Are you dumb? Are you actually stupid? Because that is not at all how the world works, and you are not at all important. So why do you think that you saying something is going to do anything other than just stir shit up in the comments? Because that's all it does. And then in 3 hours, everyone's going to forget who you are, what you are, you are just going to return to the waste of air that you are. So I don't understand any of the premise behind going into game dev Twitter and just shitting on people that are trying to make games.
I agree, man, and I think that's pretty endemic elsewhere, where people who are not experts in the field feel like they can criticize, and that's always been the case, but now you have this worldwide stage, this platform in which to do it, and I just kind of look at it where I'm like, listen, I can tell you why, or maybe hopefully tell you why I don't like a movie, or maybe why I'm like, I'm not a big fan of that game, but I don't know how a game works. I don't know how to make a movie. So I always, I've shit on plenty of stuff in the 314 episodes prior to this one about different movies and stuff because, I look at that as also it made me feel something, maybe not what the filmmaker wanted me to feel, but I felt something about it. And same thing with games. There's certain games where I'm like, oh, I love this game. It's great. And other times where I'm like, it's just not for me, or there's just a certain play style. I'll watch you play Kino. I'll probably never buy the game because it's not my cup of tea. I don't really like action adventure games. Those don't do it for me. I don't like platformers. It's gonna take a pretty unique first person shooter for me to get it and play it because I played plenty of them. So it's one of those things where I try to appreciate where it's coming from. I can offer, oftentimes I'm offering shit out of, I knew Jared was going to do this. He goes, so you're saying that no one should complain about Superman Returns?
Well, that's the thing. So that's the thing, right? Because it doesn't fucking matter if something is objectively bad. It doesn't matter if something is objectively good because some people are going to like it and some people aren't. It comes from a matter of perspective. And Superman Returns is a movie that Jared fucking loves. Jared masturbates to this movie. Jared fucking has a hardcover case, steel book case, like deluxe edition pre-order of Superman Returns, and he fucking loves this movie, and that's fine. It's a bad movie, but I'm gonna let people like things. Like,
Sure.
like that's the thing, is why can't we just let people like things? That's something that was like trending on Twitter. It's like some director, another fucking director guy is like, the Marvel movies are turning the cinema audience into zombies.
Oh, it was the guy who's doing Dune.
Why can't we? Yeah, yes, it was, and it was like, why can't people just like things? Dune is going to be an over artistic fucking piece of shit, like that is just these long shots, and we got the 50 millimeter, and we're gonna get in there real tight. We got the telephoto way far out. We're gonna see a lot of sand in this movie. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be a good movie. Dune is gonna be great. It's gonna be fucking awesome. But fuck that guy. I'm gonna watch it on my phone. Like, I don't give a shit about this dude. Like, and it's like, and it's the same thing with Scorsese too. When he said shit. It's like, they like, why can't we just like them?
Yeah,
it's not masterclass cinema. No one's saying that they are. Some people are saying that they are, but that's not the point. They're like, whatever. They're fun. Like, it's just fun to go watch them. Like, it's like, I'm not trying to tote that Star Wars is like masterclass media. I'm not trying, like, but I like watching them. They're fun. They're fun movies. And so I don't know where this thing came, where if something is like bad, or if it's not critically acclaimed, it is just not allowed to be enjoyed.
It's
just very strange.
It's
that
best
is like
or
where
worst.
we are.
There's nothing in between. It's the best movie ever. It's the worst movie ever. And it's one of those things where I try to keep that in mind. I think the easiest one for me is like Fast and Furious movies. Mm-hmm. They do absolutely nothing for me, but I appreciate that people enjoy them. Like, I can get why people like it. It's an action-filled, just high adrenaline ride with cool looking cars and cool stunts and action. It's just, it doesn't do anything for me. I don't like cars. Like, I'm not a car person. So that wasn't made for me. So I'm not going to sit there and just like write a diatribe on Rotten Tomatoes about how the film just
it's like, that's like, I don't know, it's so weird, especially because I mean, I come from a perspective where I know enough about film to say if something is objectively bad or good, but I can still watch a bad movie and enjoy it because I'm easy to please. Like, I just want to watch something and have fun for a little bit. I can analyze it after that. I can walk out of a theater and say, man, that was a lot of fun, I really liked that, and then go back and analyze it and say, that was bad, that was bad, that was bad. I could cinema sins the shit out of a movie, but that guy fucking sucks and I hate him. So like, I wouldn't like ever do that, like, because that just ruins the enjoyment of it. Like, that dude sucks. The CinemaSins guy sucks. That's my stance.
I agree. I don't like people that get nitpicky over shit. Like, when people like go through like and say continuity, they point out that sort of stuff. I'm like, guys, listen.
Because people are going through and like watching those things, and then they're saying that the last fucking Disney movie with like like they're saying Moana was a bad movie because it got 101 cinema sins. It's like what the, like, that shit is so asinine.
Yeah, like, I don't know, man. And I look at that as, I'm glad. I take it like, I'm like, hey, listen, I can't spot that stuff, and I'm happy that I can't, because I don't want to. I don't want to sit there and go frame by frame and try to analyze everything that's wrong. It's such a negative approach to things that it's just, imagine you, and this is going to be a bit of a cop out, but imagine putting your heart and soul into something creative and putting it out there for the world, and some asshole is like, I'm going to go through this frame by frame and tell you everything you did wrong. It's like, that's absolutely soul crushing to hear someone do that, you know?
And those guys just hate movies. The CinemaSins guys just hate movies. Like, they like don't enjoy film as an art at all. Like, I've like, they've gone on fucking interviews and said like, no, we just don't fucking give a shit about anything.
Yeah.
Like, but that is also like a mindset of the current like social culture, is just, there's an entertainer, there's a personality that we respect and we look up to, and their opinions are our opinions. And I mean, I think the biggest example in like the gaming community of that is this dude called Critical. He's super popular on Twitch, super popular on YouTube. He's been around for a really long time, and he has a review show where he just reviews the latest pop culture, you know, whatever, movies and games and TV shows sometimes and everything. And there is this very large sect of people that follow him, and even people that don't necessarily follow him but just like engage with his content from time to time, that he's always right, that he's never has a bad take about a piece of media. I have disagreed with him before. Like, I don't know why. Like, why is it so? Like, I do watch this shit from time to time because it's good. He makes good points. He's a very well educated person, but it's like this very weird thing that he can't be wrong, and it's like, but he can. Like, he said Deathloop was a 70, and I went into watching his Deathloop video with the expectation that he said that he was going to say it was going to be about a 70 or a 75, and his reasons were, in some parts, reasons that I enjoyed the game. Why he said he didn't like it were reasons that I enjoyed the game. So it's like, that's fine. That's fine. If you're somebody who watches his content or engages with him regularly, it's okay. For when he says something he doesn't like, you can still like it. It's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with you disagreeing with someone that you look up to or like, and that's like where a lot of this political climate has come from too, is because you can't say that you like your family sucks. Or you can't say you disagree with your family about anything because you're a family. You gotta say that you agree everything, or you can't get into debates or anything. So all that shit bottles up, and then everybody gets mad.
No, I think it's a dangerous place to be like, I can't be wrong. Like, that's a childish mindset to be in. Like, that's how you get people who will cheat in a board game because they want to win and they can't be wrong. That's someone who's willing to lie in an argument with someone that they love because they don't want to be wrong. Like, that's a really shitty place to be. Being wrong sucks. Making mistakes sucks. It's horrible. It's not great, especially like on a large stage. But cheating in board games is boring. True, I agree. Like, I don't even cheat with my daughter. Like, she plays Uno and she doesn't know how to hold her cards, and she's just like fans them out towards me. I'm like, I won't look because I'm like, what's the point? Like, I don't feel the need to do that. I don't want to win that bad that I'm gonna cheat on something. I've done that. I learned that early on. Like, I cheated to win, and I felt really gross at the end of it because I'm like, nah.
Every time I've ever cheated, I've always gotten caught.
Yeah.
So just don't.
Okay.
Just don't.
Interesting.
I've tried to cheat in games. I've tried to cheat in, like, even just like small shit, like just completely meaning, like, not games, like just. There's like one instance when I got this bow, and I was shooting the bow. I wasn't doing very good. Somebody else came in, shot a bow, got a bullseye right away.
Oh,
they
wow.
left. And then I walked up to the target. I stuck the arrow in it right on the bullseye. I'm like, hey, got the bullseye. And they're like, no, dude, we watched you do that. I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. Fuck you.
That's amazing. Ichoi goes, they must not have Monopoly in Australia because Jared said cheating in board games is boring. And Slotty goes, don't act like you never cheated just to end the game. That's because Monopoly is a bad game. Yeah, it's a bad game. It's a game that was...
Monopoly is the Catan of board games.
Ooh, okay. All right, let me stop you right there, because Catan is a much better version of Monopoly. In that, at least in Monopoly, there's that moment where one person is going to win. And everyone knows it, including the person that's going to win, and everyone wants the game to end except for the person who's going to win.
But with Catan, the only way to win is not to play.
You hate that game. And I don't know why. I understand it's one of those things where it's, hey, is it resource management? Is it what? Because I'm not a big fan of resource management games that get kind of old and overwhelming and whatnot.
I just prefer fun. That's really my only gripe.
That's fair. I haven't played. I played Children's Catan. Thanks to Slotty for buying that for the family, and Natalie had a really good time with it, and that was a lot of fun with helping building strategy. But I would agree. There's better games out there, but Monopoly is just, hey man, if you want to learn to do a little bit of math, I guess it's kind of fun. But outside of that game sucks, man. I used to love that game. That was my shit. I'd be like, get out Monopoly, we're doing this. And that game sucks, man. There's so many better options these days that you can play than fucking Monopoly. Ugh, so gross.
There's a lot of good games out there these days.
Yeah. But, real quick, going back to, something Itoy actually posted in here, because he went and found the article we were talking about and saying how connecting the time loop trope to the pandemic. But the idea that COVID forced us into a more restricted daily life that focuses on routine and thought patterns that we repeat, or the mind loops of history repeating. Either way, we can relate to these patterns more now because we ourselves are living in a time loop. Have you felt like that at all during the pandemic, where you feel kind of like your day is repetitive or the same?
Yeah, I mean, especially when I was unemployed for those 6 months. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It felt like every single day. That was like when we were kind of playing Overwatch 2 a lot. And so it was just every day was wake up, maybe cook something. I was kind of like baking bread when I first bought or lost my job. So it was like getting the bread situation and getting like all the other shit. We didn't have spaghetti yet either. So it was just waking up, not going to work, not going to school, not having anything important to do, and just sitting there, not doing anything. Yeah, so I absolutely felt like that. It really kind of sucked. I don't know. Like, yeah, I definitely did feel like that.
I remember, I think the most I felt like that was, it was like I was finishing up grad school, and I'd quit my job at the hotel to get a job somewhere else. That job fell through, and I was like, no big deal. I'll just finish up. I'll focus on grad school or whatever. And I played a lot of World of Warcraft. Played a lot of it. And I remember farming and getting this like rare mount, flying mount in the game. And to this day, I'm really embarrassed that I got it. I've gone back a couple of times and I still use it as my mount. I'm like, well, I fucking earned this thing, so I guess I'm gonna use it.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a cool mount. I'm like, I don't like what I did to get it. Every day I would go through like 25 daily quests and I would grind and grind. And I did the math. At one point I was like, if I do this for 13 more days, I'll have enough currency to purchase this mount. And I remember doing that every single day. I purchased the mount and I was like, here it is. And I felt a sense of sadness of what I've spent my time doing. I was like, I will never do this again. That was horrible. I just felt so gross that I had done that. You know,
I could still put a couple hundred more hours into Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, you're already the captain of that game, that's for sure.
I am the captain now.
Pandemic for me personally has probably been, I'm very fortunate in that, you know, I've been able to work from home, and it's actually given me an opportunity to get healthy. And it's also kind of fucked with my head as far as, I think this happened to a lot of people, is like, what's really important in my life. And I realized how much I enjoy my family, which sounds really shitty to say, but like that's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy cooking for my family. I enjoy going on walks with my wife over lunch. I enjoy picking my kid up from school and going to a playground, or, you know, all that sort of stuff. And I'm very, very fortunate in that I don't have to go to a place with other people. I can do my job from my home, which is super exciting. And I'm very, very fortunate, and I'm thankful for that. But it's also kind of like, really in my brain, I'm like, what's really important? I've thought, am I having a midlife crisis? Like, is this something I'm having? Is this what a midlife crisis is, where you kind of realize like what's really important in your life? And I'm like, and work is not up there.
Right.
Like, I'm like, I do my work, I do a good job, but I'm like, my ambition is at an all-time low as far as like what I really want to do. I'm like, I want to do more creative things. That's where I want to spend my time and my energy, you know?
Yeah. I think I've never had ambition. I just always have kind of wanted to do my own thing.
Yeah, I think the practical side of me just always tried to steer me away from that, because it's scary to do my own thing. Because I'm like,
see, I don't have any of that.
Yeah,
I need some practical Doug brain. I don't have any.
Yeah, that practical Doug's gotten in the way of a lot of creative endeavors, because he's like, well, I mean, have you considered the tax implications of doing something like that? I mean, if you're gonna go as a sole proprietor, I mean, that the risk and the liability there's 100% on you.
No health insurance.
Yeah.
I just don't really have a no filter. I mean, if anything could lead to like an adventure or fucking like cool business endeavor, then I've done some shit that I'm not necessarily proud of. There was like this dude in California who requested my services, just literally saw my like YouTube channel or whatever, and was like, I want this guy for my startup. And he moved into his car out of this really nice house and started this company, bought a laptop, bought a camera with the money he was saving on rent, quit his job, and started using Starbucks Wi-Fi to start this business. And man, did it not go over super well.
That man is Elon Musk.
Yes. No, it's this guy. He was like just so. He had the energy, he had the drive. He just didn't have the brains, and I didn't have the brains to see it at the time. I wanted to help this guy. I saw what he was doing. I wanted to help. It seemed like a really cool idea at the time. We released a couple short films, couple music videos, and yeah, I ended up leaving just because it wasn't good. I was like, "Hey, man, I can't do this," and I just fucking blocked him on everything. But I like shit like that. Like that stuff is still fun for me. Like it gives me a reason to be in a certain extent, just because I really enjoy outreach. I really like getting as far into the world and having a net and having just everything that I can everywhere, so that at a certain point, if there's anything I need to call on, I have those favors there.
That's a good way to go about it. Because
I also like to see the world. I mean, I just went to New Orleans. That was just because I had a little bit of money extra left in the bank. I was like, fuck it. I want to go travel alone. I mean, I've been with my fiance now for 5 years, and we've pretty much done everything together. She lived in Germany by herself for a little bit. She studied abroad for about half a year, and then also was in Japan for a little while. I was like, fuck it, you guys, you've done all these cool things. I'm going to go somewhere myself too.
Yeah.
And it's just fun to do that. It was like 2 weeks in advance. Just gotta do stuff sometimes.
That's awesome. And I really respect that. And part of what I've done is just sort of been breaking down those walls. Cause a lot of my life I've wanted to do things, but the practical side of me, like I was super interested in theater when I was in high school. Like the idea of acting and performing. I've always enjoyed performing to some extent, but the practical side of me is like, well, what are you going to do with that? You gonna go to college for theater? Like, what's wrong with you? And when I was in college, it's like, there's the improv club. I'm like, that sounds cool, but I can't do that. I was shutting down that stuff all the time. And I have, I think, a lot of good creative abilities. And it took to me turning 30 and having Justin asking me or kind of politely bullying me into doing improv for me to be like, oh, and that just like opened up a door. And then more creative doors just kept opening, in different ways. And I was like, I need to lean more into this because this is the stuff that I really enjoy doing and I like doing. Yep. And, it definitely keeps me flowing. And I was relatively ambitious in a certain regard of like, just, everything that I was doing in my work world. I was like, yeah, man, we got to get to the top of what that is. And early on, I remember looking at the general manager of the hotel, even when I was working in the hotel, I'm like, could I do that? And I was like, that looks like a shitty job. You have to be connected to the property all the time. I mean, the guy would go on vacation and he was like responding to emails. And I was like, dude, what the fuck? What's the point of getting to that level to just be tied to your phone and having to respond to that shit? And he told me stories about how he used to be a GM at a hotel in the Bahamas and how they called it golden handcuffs because it was like the most beautiful place, but they never left the hotel. So their way of like getting away is they set up like several GMs of hotels set up like where every day they could come to someone else's hotel and have lunch. Like, come to my hotel and eat lunch over here, and I'll go to yours, and that's how we'll get away. I was like, that sounds horrible. Why would you want to do that? Unless you absolutely loved what you did. You loved it. Like, there's just no way that would even remotely appeal to me. I'm like, nah. No. I want to get to the point where I pretty much have that now where I'm like, my day's over. I'm like, see you tomorrow. Yeah. There's no emergencies. I'm just like, all right, see ya. I'm going to go hang out. I got to go pick up my kid. I'm going to make some dinner. I'm going to hang out, maybe do a podcast. And then, we'll maybe play some games. We'll see. Like, that's fucking best. It's good. It's the best for sure. It's the best. I definitely got to get to Chicago next time there's a production there. Hell yeah. It's like 2 East 8th production. I got to get around for it because not only from like the VFX side of things, I would really prefer be there. But I mean, also just being on a set, working with a group and actually like taking part in it is like super important. And it's like super fun, especially for us in those creative type fields and things. It's like, I've been doing editing for a really long time and I haven't been on a shoot for a very long time. Yeah. I've always just been sent footage. It's not fun. I like to be there because like I know how I need to do the edit. So being there on set and shooting for the edit not only makes the edit easier,
but also I get in there, it like feels professional. It's fun. I got a degree.
Putting it to work. Putting it to work. The best. Well, what's great is I think the next 2 East 8th production is right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And my understanding is that it's a special one. It's going to be ultra violent, and I can't wait to see what you can do. In fact, I think it's called...
Welcome to the Throwdown.
That's right. It's called the Throwdown. Welcome to the Throwdown, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot wait to see what we've got going on.
What do we got?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Let me guess. JJ PogChamp versus Doug's Puzzle Basement.
Ooh. I don't know. Would JJ PogChamp, he doesn't seem like a puzzle basement kind of, like, he doesn't seem like he fares well in puzzle basements.
He wouldn't want to leave.
Yeah. And he'd be like, yeah, well, the only way out is to solve the puzzle.
The only way out is to stay forever.
All right. Well, this week's Throwdown, decided by the council, is Beetlejuice versus The Mask.
Mm.
Ooh, okay. So let's go through let's start with The Mask. Powers and abilities. Let's see here. So it gives, cartoon powers. So change your appearance and size regardless of your shape. Move and travel in a matter of seconds. Create objects by imitating reality or the source from the user's imagination. Immunity to any inflicted injury. Well, that right there just seems like, invulnerability right there. Although the user becomes invincible and cannot feel pain, he or she bleeds with a normal person. In original comics only. All right, that makes no sense. What else we got here? Superhuman agility, control over the things of animation, furious and berserk strength, shooting force gusts, able to fly, heat vision. I mean, the list here is...
He can do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever you hand into the cartoon world, that's when it's...
we can talk about Beetlejuice, but I'm already decided.
The main weakness of the mask is always shown when it's removed from the wearer's face by the wearer himself or due to any external factor. Case of the film, she always goes out alone when the first rays of sun hit the user when he or she is wearing the mask. What the fuck? I don't even know what this is written so poorly.
I mean, if we're talking comics, like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's fucking over.
Yeah,
shit is just completely over the kill.
Yeah.
He can be Deadpool. Statistically, he can be Deadpool.
Yeah, I mean, Beetlejuice has some pretty powerful, abilities: reality warping, invulnerability. Is he invulnerable though? I mean,
it's like Satan versus the ultimate, the ultimate demon. Like it's like Satan versus the Archangel. Like it's all.
Yeah.
It's
because he can't die because he's dead. He's like some sort of entity. So, yeah, I think that's a good way of. I mean, he's basically like a devil. It's like you make a deal with him.
Mm-hmm.
He gets imprisoned in places and he just wants to be let out. That's more or less what he is. He has he's basically like a dark genie, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
But the mask is just
same thing as last week, right? It boils down to toon powers.
Yeah,
because the mask is just a living cartoon, and so he can do anything.
Yeah,
he can take bullets. He can take like magic damage. He can do.
You can probably break the fourth wall, like whatever. It's cartoon powers is just a whole new realm. While I don't think they'd be able to kill each other necessarily, I think the mask would probably imprison Beetlejuice somewhere using toon powers.
Well, so he would do the opposite of the Roadrunner Wile E. Coyote bit, where he like paints a wall on the side of like a cliff. Like paints like a tunnel, and then Beetlejuice goes through the cliff, and of course Jervis is counting the enough times we say it. But then the mask doesn't run through, and then he tears the sticker off the wall, and then he's stuck in where? And where is he? I don't know.
In purgatory or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, like he could do whatever it. Yeah, what's possible is infinite with the mask, and he would inevitably. Whereas I feel like Beetlejuice's powers are rooted in some form of reality. It's bonkers, but it's still rooted in reality to some regard, whereas the mask is not. So yeah, I think I'm going with the mask on this one.
I think the mask has to win this one.
Yay! Those are the sound effects because I don't have the soundboard.
Wait, I can maybe. Mask for the win!
I thought you were gonna sneeze.
I was, and then I just screamed instead.
That's hilarious. That's so good. Well, that was good. I did appreciate that because those are two very powerful creatures. Mm-hmm. So kudos to the council as always for putting that together. I've been waiting to do this bit all morning, and then it was ruined by my stupid job.
That's okay.
I love it.
It wasn't a good bit.
It was a bit. No, this has been great having you come on back, man. This is super cool. Always a pleasure.
I love being here.
What do you have to recommend to the folks this week? What do you say?
I don't know. This is a tough one this week because I would have recommended Star Wars Visions probably, but it's not out yet, so I can't recommend it.
I mean, by the time this launches, it should have been out, but the time recording, it's not available yet.
No,
so
not available yet.
Yeah.
We're gonna give it to play Deathloop. Deathloop's good. If you have a PS5, not a lot of people do, but if you do have one, Deathloop, it's very fun. It's very good. Don't play it on Steam. It's broken.
What's broken about it on Steam?
Doesn't run. Doesn't do good. It's too big, too strong.
Oh no! It's got
breaks 30 series cards.
It's got the Tatoon power.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Also, Noah, where can people find you?
You can find me at Noah Reno. That is at Noah Reno on everything, really. The Twitch and Twitter and Instagram. Or you can find the alter ego that's legally not myself at JJPogChamp69 on Twitter and at JJPogChamp on TikTok. We can watch all the funny, goofy, haha content.
It's the best. And like he said, he's on Twitch. Do you have like a schedule or anything like that where people can find you?
No.
There you go. He is an enigma. So go to Twitch, look up at Noah Reno, hit the follow, and turn on the notifications so you'll know whenever he goes live. You come check out his shit.
Big if true.
Big if true, always and forever. For me this week, I haven't been watching a lot of stuff. I'll be perfectly honest. The last What If episode really disappointed me. It was a very big nothing to me. But I got kind of nostalgic. And I got on HBO Max, was watching some old South Park episodes, and was thoroughly entertained. Okay. So because I was like, oh my God, some of these are really old, and they still hold up. So I'd say check out some South Park. Go back to the archives. If you have HBO Max, they got them all there. Go check them out. There's some fun stuff, man. I had a really good time. I was like, oh, I remember this episode, and just really enjoyed the shit out of it. So it's very entertaining. So South Park recommendation from Doug. Also, don't forget to check out Mind Gap on all social medias at Mind Gap Podcast. Be sure to head over to our YouTube channel, like and subscribe over there. We post all of our episodes there as well as highlights from our streams. And please, of course, don't forget to check us out on Twitch at twitch.tv/MindGapPodcast, where we stream our podcast live, recording every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central. We do our video game live stream on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Central. In addition, please don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to your podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, whether it be Podbean, whether it be Spotify, Google Podcasts, whether it be Samsung, all that good stuff. If you could just do us a solid, just like us, rate and review is really huge. It goes a long way to send us up those rankings so people can find us. And if you like something we do, you like an episode, you like a bit, you like something, share us out. That means a lot. That sort of support goes a long way, and we appreciate you giving us your attention and your love and we appreciate that. So that being said, once again, Noah, thank you for taking the time to hang out with me to fill in for Justin. You're a kind human, and we appreciate you.
I appreciate every time I'm asked. That just means that little mind worm that is the old Gunschmeister is wiggling his way deeper and deeper into the roots of society. He'll never get out.
The Gunschmeister is something that we all are lucky to have in our lives. Don't you forget it. So to that, I want to say, Noah, thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
And to Twitch, thank you.
Thank you, Twitch.
And to all of our listeners, thank you. And you all have a dandy fucking week.
Mind Gap Podcast.